dear students, I am Dr. Shikha Pandey, Associate Professor from Institute of Aeronautical Engineering, Hyderabad. So today I am going to discuss about the global environmental problems and the global effort and the global warming and climate change. So now let's start the lecture with the global warming. Like, what is global warming? As we know that global warming is an increase in the temperature of Earth's atmosphere. Simply means it's getting hotter. That the global warming is the earth increase in the temperature of earth, or it is getting hotter. The scientific community believes that the climate like global warming has occurred throughout earth's history and will continue to occur in the future, and the scientists have spent decades figuring out what is global warming means. As per some scientific community has believed that global warming is like a natural process. It is coming throughout the earth history and will continue to occur in the future. In the future it will occur, and it is like a it have occurred throughout the earth's history, and many scientists have decades figuring out what is causing global warming, what is the reason behind that global warming. Many scientists have spent their decades figuring out the actual reason of global warming. So the global warming is the increase in the average measured temperature of the earth's near surface air and ocean since the mid 20th century, and it is projected, and it's a projected continuation. In media, it's synonym with the climate change. Global warming is same the climate change. Like, global warming is the increase of the average measured temperature of the Earth's near surface air and ocean since the mid 20th century, and it's a projected continuation. Global surface temperature increased from 0.74 degrees Celsius during the 100-year ending in 2005. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change (IPCC) has concluded that most of the observed increase in globally average temperature since the mid 20th century is very likely due to the observed increase in greenhouse gas concentration via an enhanced greenhouse effects. This is called as global warming. This most of the observed increase in globally average temperature since the mid 20th century is very likely due to the observed increase in greenhouse gases concentration. So IPCC is the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. UN has made a panel on climate change, and that IPCC is giving report time to time about that climate change. And they have concluded that the due to increase in greenhouse gases, the temperature of Earth is increased, and it is very likely to observe increase in greenhouse gases concentration. And the most of the observed increase in globally average temperature since the mid 20th century is very likely because of the use of the greenhouse gases is increased. So after 20th century, that global warming has increased, that climate change has increased because of after 20th century we are using the more and more our dependency on technology and electronic gadgets is increased. So due to the dependency on electronic gadgets, the greenhouse gases has increased too much, and due to the increase in the concentration of greenhouse gases, that global warming has takes place by the enhanced greenhouse effect. And now we are going to discuss about what is greenhouse effects. So greenhouse effect is a process by which absorption and emission of infrared radiation by atmospheric gases warms a planet lower atmosphere and surface. Greenhouse effects is the process by which the absorption and emission of infrared radiation by atmospheric gases warms a planet and lower atmosphere and surface. Naturally occurring greenhouse gases have a mean warming effects of about 33 degrees Celsius, like 59 Fahrenheit, without which Earth would not be uninhabitable, because without that greenhouse gases it should be very cold. Earth will be very cold. So that greenhouse gases is important for this earth, and naturally occurring greenhouse gases have a mean warming effects of about 30 degrees Celsius. Naturally occurring greenhouse gases have a temperature like 33 degrees Celsius, like 59 degree Fahrenheit. and without that greenhouse gases, earth would be very cold. So it is the process by which absorption and emission of infrared radiation by atmospheric gases warms a planet lower atmosphere and surface. And the examples of greenhouse gases are the carbon dioxide, carbon fluorocarbon, chlorofluorocarbon, methane, nitrous oxide, perfluorocarbon, sulfur hexafluoride. Carbon dioxide is CO2, CO2 and chlorofluorocarbon, methane, nitrous oxide, perfluorocarbon, sulfur hexafluoride. So all these gases is going to be increased in coming in the 20th century with the use of more electronics item, with the use of refrigerator, AC, and all these things that causes the increase of the Earth's atmosphere. So, greenhouse effect is the process by which absorption and emission of infrared radiation by atmospheric gases that warms a planet lower atmosphere and surface. Naturally occurring greenhouse gases have a mean warming effects of about 33 degrees Celsius, 59 degrees Fahrenheit, without which Earth would be inhabitable. So, in this picture, you can understand the greenhouse effect. Effect is the solar energy from the sun passes through the atmosphere, and some energy is reflected back out of space, and Earth's surface is heated by the sun and radiated the Earth back out toward the space, and the greenhouse gases in atmosphere trap some of the heat. So, due to the some greenhouse gases is there in our atmosphere, CFC, CO2, CH4, CFC, all these greenhouses is already present in our atmosphere. So what this greenhouse gases is doing, these greenhouse gases in the atmosphere trap the heat into the atmosphere already, because the solar energy from the sun passes through the atmosphere, and the some energy is reflected back out of the space. Some energy is going to be reflected back to the space, and Earth's surface is heated by the sun and radiates the heat back out toward the space, and the greenhouse gases and then Earth's surface is heated by the sun and radiated the heat back out toward the space. And the greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, these gases CO2, methane, CFC, and 2O will causes greenhouse in the atmosphere trap some heat into the atmosphere. So because of these greenhouse gases, some heat will be trapped into the earth atmosphere. So this effect is called as greenhouse effect. Means like what these gases will trap the all heat inside the earth atmosphere, that will that will increase the amount of heat into the earth atmosphere. So this is the greenhouse effect and greenhouse gases. Already some heat is there that is coming from the solar energy, sun energy, and passes through the atmosphere, and the some energy is reflected back to the space, and earth's surface is heated by the sun and radiated the heat back out toward the space. And what these greenhouse gases is doing, they will trap the heat of the solar heat that is coming from the sunlight, and due to that the temperature of the earth is increases because of the trapping of this heat into by the greenhouse gases. That greenhouse gases will do the trapping of the heat into the earth atmosphere, and due to this temperature of the atmosphere increases, because that heat is already trapped on the earth's surface. Temperature is increased, so that is called as, this effect is called as greenhouse effect. The greenhouse effect, greenhouse gases is there. These greenhouse gases will cause the increase the temperature of the earth, and that will causes the greenhouse effect, and greenhouse gases is there. Now comes to this is a picturization of the greenhouse effect of the atmosphere inside a car. If we will take the example of a car, how this greenhouse is working, so you will easily understand by the example of this car. So a greenhouse is, you can see that this car, we will consider it as a greenhouse, is generally warmer than the air outside it, because sunlight and heat pass through the glass into the car, but heat is then trapped in the car, making it warmer. Sunlight can pass through the windscreen and warm up the inside the car. What will happen? This car, we will consider it as a greenhouse, and the heat is coming inside the car and the windscreen and warm up inside the car. Automatically, the temperature of the car is increased, and the heat can't get back out throughout the windscreen. The car become hotter. That's why that same phenomena is happening with our atmosphere. Like earth is heat is coming inside the car, and sunlight can pass through the windscreen and warm up inside the air, because the windscreen is there, but the sunlight can pass inside the car, but it cannot get back out with that windscreen, so that car become hotter. So this is the main this is a very simple example and phenomena of greenhouse effect. Like that, sunlight can enters into the car by the windscreen, and that warm up inside the car, and that heat can't get out back with that windscreen, because that cannot go back. The same condition is happening with our atmosphere also. Sunlight we can trapped into the earth atmosphere, and that will increase the earth's temperature. So this will be called as global warming, climate change, greenhouse effect, all, and all the phenomena are interrelated. So here what is happening, some of the infrared radiation from the sun passes through the atmosphere, but most is absorbed and re-emitted in all direction by greenhouse gas, molecules and cloud. The effect of this is to warm the earth's surface and the lower atmosphere. Some of the infrared radiation from the sun passes through the atmosphere, but most is absorbed and re-emitted in all direction by greenhouse gas, molecules and cloud. The effects of this is to warm the earth's surface and the lower atmosphere. This what will happen, infrared radiation from the sun enters into the atmosphere, most is absorbed as re-emitted. Mostly infrared radiation is absorbed and re-emitted in all the direction by greenhouse gases and molecule and clouds. And the effects of this is to warm the earth's surface and the lower atmosphere. What they are doing, that they will warm the earth's surface and lower the atmosphere. This is a normal phenomena, natural phenomena of greenhouse gases. These infrared radiation from the sun passes through the atmosphere, but most is absorbed and re-emitted in all the direction. You can see that these are the greenhouse gases, and solar radiation passes through the clear atmosphere. It will passes through the clear atmosphere. Some solar radiation is reflected by the atmosphere and earth's surface. Outgoing solar radiation is there, and some of the infrared radiation passes through the atmosphere and is lost in the space. Some of the infrared radiation is absorbed and re-emitted by the greenhouse gases molecule, and the direct effect is the warming of the earth's surface and the troposphere. Surface gains more heat and infrared radiation is emitted again. Solar energy is absorbed by the earth's surface and warm it up to 168 watt per meter square, and is converted into the heat, causing the emission of the long wave infrared radiation back to the atmosphere. Some solar radiation is reflected by the atmosphere and earth's surface. So this is the total phenomenon of greenhouse effects. The basic aim and the main reason of this greenhouse effect is to warm the earth's surface and then lower the earth atmosphere. This greenhouse emission is the reason behind the greenhouse emission is the rapid industrialization, increase of the industries. Rapid industrialization and the increases of the industries is causing more and more emission of greenhouse gases, and because industries is using, mainly the emission coming from industries are the carbon dioxide and the nitrous oxide, and these are the main greenhouse gases. And second reason is the population explosion. Population explosion is also the reason of greenhouse effect, because the population will increase, that will demand more food, more shelter, more everything, more availability of everything should be more resources, that will demand more resources. And due to that more they are going to use more electronic equipments, and that will causes some electronic equipments will emit that carbon dioxide, nitrous oxide, methane and etc. Sometimes the depletion of natural resources is also the reason of greenhouse effect. Depletion with the increase of population, with the increase of industrialization, obviously natural resource is going to be depleted because deforestation is there. And sometimes it's a natural phenomena is also. A greenhouse effect is a natural phenomena also. And next one is the modification of ecosystem. Due to the modification of ecosystem, the removal emission of greenhouse gases increased, and with the increase of greenhouse gases, this greenhouse effect will cause. So it's increase in temperature of earth is there, increase in earth temperature, all due to the greenhouse gases. Now comes to the next slide. This is about the effects of global warming. So now we are going to discuss about the effects of global warming, means the effects related with the greenhouse gases. Effects of global warming. So with the increase of earth's temperature, these effects are happening on the earth. This is like the first one is effects of global warming. The first effect is the increase in sea level, increases in the intensity of extreme weather events, significant change to the amount and pattern of precipitation, modification of trade routes, glacier retreats, mass species extinction, increase in the range of disease, vector disease. So these are the some of the factors that will effects of global warming is due to the global warming. Global warming increases the sea level. It increases the intensity of extreme weather events. Sometimes any weather is going to be increased. Sometimes too cold is there. Sometimes too hot is there. So all these are the intensity of extreme weather events. Significant change to the amount and pattern of precipitation. And the amount of precipitation and all things are getting changed due to that global warming. All weather phenomenon is totally disturbed due to this global warming, because the pattern of monsoon, the pattern of wind, the pattern of winter pattern or the summer season is totally disturbed due to this global warming, because sometimes sometimes too cold winter is there, sometimes too hot summer is there. So all the reason behind this inappropriate behavior of weather is only due to the global warming and greenhouse effects. Modification, glacier retreat is there. Glaciers are melting due to the increase in temperature. Mass species extinction is there because when sometimes the temperature is increased due to too hot, too cold, many species is disturbed. Their reproduction stay power is disturbed due to this temperature extreme weather events. Due to that, their species is going to be extinct. Their population is going to be narrower because of that global warming. Increase in the range of diseases due to the global warming. Some disease vectors is increased, like dengue, malaria. All diseases is increases due to the global warming. So in this way, global warming affects socio-economic everything of any country. It is affecting any country in terms of weather, in terms of health, in terms of species. It is affecting in the trade route. It is melting the glacier. So it is very much dangerous, and it is very much harmful for the any country. This is a global warming. Now comes to the next slide. This is about the effects of global warming. So in this picture we can see that till now scientists has reported that the earth temperature has increased to 1 degree Celsius. 1 degree Celsius till 2020. So in 2007, that is the current warming rate. Here what will happen according to a report is like in 2007 current warming rate, decreasing water availability, increasing drought in many regions, increases wildlife risk, increased flood and storm damage, increasing burden from malnutrition, diarrhea, cardiorespiratory and infectious diseases. Till 2007 it is there, but in 2020 1 degree temperature is increased. And what is the effect of all this temperature increase is that increased risk of extinction for 20 to 30% of known species, most coral bleached, and increasing mortality from heat wave, floods and droughts. So mortality rates has been increased due to the flood, droughts and droughts and heat waves. So due to the because in 2020 already the temperature is increased to 1 degree Celsius, and people are getting extinction, and people are getting death by the mortality rate has been increased due to the reason of heat wave, floods and drought. Major change in it is predicted in 2050 that the temperature has been increased more than 2 degrees Celsius. And with increasing more than 2 degrees Celsius, what will happen? Major change in natural system causes predominantly negative consequences for biodiversity, water and food supplies. Widespread coral mortality. A million more people face flooding risk every year. So, and with that increasing rate of temperature till 2080, 4 degrees Celsius of the temperature is increased, and it will causes extinction of more than 40% of known species, global economic losses of up to 50% GDP, commitment to at least partial melting of Greenland and West Antarctica ice sheet, eventually raising sea level 30 to 20 feet. This is all about the rising of impacts of global warming with continued intensive reliance on fossil fuel and emission increases. So with that much range that is increasing, so will causes that much harmful for this, and it is the source is the IPCC. As we have already discussed that IPCC is the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. They have given that report like if the climate change, global warming is increasing in this way, many species is going to be extinct, and many negative consequences is there of a biodiversity, water and food supply. Widespread coral mortality is there. Million more people face flooding risk every year. Substantiality burden on health services. Global food production decreases. About 30% of global coastal wetland lost. Many wetland has been lost till 2080. Many almost 50% of the 40% of the known species has been extinct due to this increase in temperature, and 50% GDP commitment to at least partial melting of Greenland and West Antarctica ice sheet, eventually raising sea level 30 to 20 feet. Now comes to the next slide. Like this is about the mitigation of global warming. So, mitigation of global warming involves taking action to reduce greenhouse gases emission and to enhance sink aimed at reducing the extent of global warming. This is to distinction to adaptation to global warming, which involves taking action to minimize the effects of global warming. Emission should be reduced to enhance sink aimed at reducing the extent of global warming. This is in distinction to adaptation to global warming, which involves taking action to minimize the effects of global warming. Stabilize greenhouse gas level in a time frame sufficiently to allow ecosystem to adapt naturally to climate change, ensure that food production is not threatened, and to enable economic development to proceed in a sustainable manner. So this is about the mitigation of global warming. Mitigation of global warming involves taking action to reduce greenhouse gas emission and to enhance sink aimed at reducing the extent of global warming. This is in distinction to adaptation to global warming, which involves taking action to minimize the effects of global warming. Now comes to the climate change. Due to greenhouse gases, global warming is there, and due to global warming, climate change is there. So all these climate issues are interrelated. They are interrelated with each other. Like greenhouse effect causes global warming. Global warming causes climate change. Due to this global warming, all deforestation, desertification, all issue is related with this only global warming only. So now let's discuss about the climate change. The average weather of a particular place is called as climate. The Earth's climate is changing dramatically because of human interference, and the climate is influenced directly the temperature and other meteorological conditions such as wind, precipitation, and glaciation. Long-term variation in temperature is major cause of climate change in environment. Climate change and other environmental issues are interlinked, as we have already discussed at this point. Like climate change and all other environmental issue, either it is a deforestation, desertification, flood issue, drought, climate uneven climate pattern, everything is connected with the climate change only. And long-term variation in temperature is a major cause of climatic change in environment. The Earth's climate is changing dramatically because of human interference. This Earth climate is changing due to only the interference of human, and the climate is influenced directly by temperature and other meteorological conditions like wind, precipitation, glaciation. Nowadays, many scientists is saying that global warming is just a natural process. Some are saying that it is not it global climate change is not there. So these are some evidences for climate change. First one is the global temperature rise. The planet average temperature has risen about 2 degrees Celsius since the late 19th century. In this 20th century, Earth's temperature has increased to 2 degrees Celsius. So, due to increase in that average Earth surface, 2 degrees Celsius has increased. So, this global temperature rise is only due to the climate change. Then, warming ocean. The ocean has absorbed much of the increased heat with a top 100 meter, about 328 feet of ocean, showing warming of more than 0.6 degrees Fahrenheit. So, this is the warming ocean. Ocean warming is also there in the ocean. First one evidence is the global temperature rise, then warming of ocean, then sinking of ice sheet. So Greenland and Antarctica ice sheet have decreased in mass. Already many scientists have reported that the ice sheet of Greenland and Antarctica has shrinking by day, and the warming of ocean has absorbed much of this increased heat with the top 100 meter, and the warming of ocean has increased already. Ocean has already absorbed much of the heat with the top 100 meter, about 328 feet of ocean, that is showing warming of more than 0.6 degree Fahrenheit of 0.33 degrees Celsius. The Greenland and Antarctica ice sheet have decreased in mass also. Now comes to the next evidence, that is about the glacier retreat. Glaciers are retreating almost everywhere around the world, including some famous big glaciers, that is Alps, Himalaya, Andes, Rockies, and Alaska. All these glaciers are retreating due to the climate change and the decreasing snow cover. The satellite observation has revealed that the amount of spring snow cover in the northern hemisphere has decreased over the past 5 decades, and the snow is melting earlier. Sea level rise. Global sea level rise about 8 inches in the last centuries, and declining in the Arctic sea ice. Arctic sea ice, both the extent and thickness of Arctic sea ice has declined rapidly over the last several decades. So these are the evidences and examples of climate change. Glacier retreats, and almost in everywhere in the world, all glaciers are retreating and melting. Decreased snow cover in the northern hemisphere has been decreased over the past 5 decades, and the snow is melting earlier. And the rise in the sea level rise about 8 inches, like in 20 centimeter, and the most of the big cities of the world, like in the US or in South Africa, they are living nearby to the sea, nearby to any sea. So if a flood will come, that will vanish all the city. And next one is the sinking of declining Arctic sea ice. Arctic sea ice has declining rapidly over the last several decades, and you can see this in the picture, like the observed globally average combined land and ocean surface temperature from 1850 to 2012. This is the annual temperature, that is, you can see that temperature increases like that. This is the decadal average, and here again till 2000 it is more than 0.2 degrees Celsius, like that. In annual average, this is decadal average. This is the increase of the temperature. And next one slide, next graph, you can see that this is about the Arctic ice sheet, and the Arctic ice sheet is also getting melting in the year 2000, like that. Global average sea level reliable to 1986 to 2005, and the observed change in annual precipitation over land from 1950 to 2010. This is the pictures from IPCC. They have given about the increase in temperature from 1901 to 2012, and this is the increase in annual average temperature from the last decade. And is next example of the climate change is the melting of polar ice cap, rise in sea level. That because of that, rise in polar ice cap is a rise in sea level through global ecosystem out of balance that will endangered many species of animal. This is, you can see that Arctic Sea ice boundary in 1979. This red color is the Arctic Sea one. Now it is here only. So it is a satellite image. That image is showing the shrinking of Arctic Sea boundary, ice boundary, and it is only due to the rise in sea level through global ecosystem out of balance that will endanger many several species of animals. And now we are going to discuss about the effects of climate change on the human beings. Human environment will be seriously affected by extremes of climate by means of floods and droughts. Due to extreme change in climate, human beings suffers from safe drinking water. Because of that, due to extreme change in climate condition, human being is going to suffer from safe drinking water. And change in climate may affect the distribution of vector diseases like mosquito will increase, and which in turn spread infectious disease such as malaria, filariasis, dengue, diarrhea, yellow fever, etc. And the reduction in food production would lead to starvation. Climate change could lead to migration of human beings also. These are the impacts of human climate change on the human beings. Now, the effects of global warming on the ecosystem. Coral system and other unique ecosystem cannot handle higher temperature as well, and it will increase. The wildfire will increase, and up to 30% of the species will be at increased risk of extinction due to the rapid change in their ecosystem. So, extinction rate will also increase due to this global warming. And now comes to the IPCC. IPCC is an intergovernmental panel on climate change. They have made a panel on climate change, and it was created in 1980 with the purpose of studying the evaluation of the phenomena of climate change and its consequences. Climate change and its consequences. So IPCC made its first report in 1990, and they kept making new one periodically, and until they published their last report in October 2018. Last report they have given in October 2018 that focuses on the impacts of temperature increase by 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial level. It's a GHG emission pathway and was built in an attempt to address policymaker more directly. This is about the IPCC. IPCC has given a first report in 1990. They kept making new one periodically, and they published their last report in October 2018 that focuses on the impacts of temperature increase of 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial level. Its GHG emission pathway was built in an attempt to address policy makers more directly. IPCC was created in 1980 with the purpose of studying the evaluation of the phenomena of climate change and its consequences, and that IPCC is giving their report on the purpose of studying the evaluation of phenomena due to this climate change and the consequences of this climate change on the human being and effects of that climate change on ecosystem, aquatic life, on everybody. So this IPCC has been made, and IPCC has been created in the 1988 that will purpose of studying the evaluation of phenomena, and IPCC has given its first report in 1990. They kept making new one periodically, and already IPCC has given its first report that they already said that the impacts of temperature increase of 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial level, means before industrial level 1.5 degrees Celsius in temperature is increased, and the GHG emission, greenhouse gas emission pathway, and was built in an attempt to address the policymaker more directly. So this greenhouse gas emission pathway was built in an attempt to address policymaker more directly. The IPCC has already given its first report that is called pre-industrial report, and that focuses on the increase of greenhouse gases due to the industrial activity. And greenhouse gases, this before pre-industrial effect, before that 20th century, and already 1 degree temperature has increased in its first report. Now In October 2018, they focuses on the impact of temperature increase of 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial level, and GHG emission was built in an attempt to address policymaker more directly. So policymaker has to make more directly that policy against these rules, and they are giving instruction for the emission and mitigation of that climate change by the policymaker. And this lecture is all about the climate change and global environmental problem that is related with the temperature rise and the global efforts that has been made to mitigate all the global environment problems. Now, thank you for today's. Thank you.
Like, share and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.